and its estate of gardens, park and farmland. The house, completed in 1600, was a symmetrical building, topped by 3 turrets with leaded cupolas, large windows and spacious rooms. Close by stood St. Peter's Church, rebuilt in 1771 but keeping its early English font. Ma Dawson was probably the oldest person in the village, with pure white hair under her lace bonnet, though she would never reveal her true age. Rumour had it that she wasn't really sure herself just how old she was, though the fact that she had married her soldier husband on his return from the Crimean War meant that she must be 80 at least. Widowed in 1900, she now lived with her son and his family. After leaving the regular army, her husband had learned the trade of carpenter and wheelwright from his uncle, and now their son Leonard continued the village industry. To Ma's delight, 3 of her 4 grandsons were also learning the trade and expanding the family business too. When the village blacksmith had become too old to carry on and had had no one to inherit his business, Leonard and his sons had taken on the workshop, which was only a few yards from their own home and workplace. Now the Dawsons were not only the village's carpenter, wheelwright and undertaker, but also its blacksmith. As she closed her eyes and lifted her face to the sun, Ma could hear Roy and Harold, the 2 youngest boys, sawing wood. The trunk of a huge tree they'd felled earlier that day. And from the blacksmith's shop came the sound of Bernard's hammer striking the anvil with a sharp clanging sound that echoed along the village street. "Here you are, Ma, a nice cup of tea and your favourite biscuit." Ma opened her eyes to squint up at her daughter-in-law, Nora. "Ta, duck. Sit down a minute, why don't you? You've been on the go since dawn." "Aye, well, Ma, Len and the lads work hard. They have to have a good breakfast inside them before they start in the morning, now don't they?" "You're a good wife and mother, Nora. I couldn't have wished for anyone better for my son. And you've given me lovely grandchildren too. 4 boys and a girl. Who'd have thought it, with me only ever being able to have just the one? I'm proud of all of them." She paused and smiled toothlessly. "Even William." Nora pulled a face and sighed. "Maybe he's better employed at the hall for Mrs. Maitland, as her gardener and handyman. I don't think working with his father and brothers would have been right for him, do you?" Nora was small and thin, with her grey hair pulled back into a bun. She wore a perpetually worried expression, for she was always busy looking after the family, her husband Len, her mother-in-law, who was always called Ma, and 5 children, though only the 4 boys still lived at home. Alice, the only girl in the family, worked as a lady's maid at the hall and lived in there. She visited on her days and afternoons off and always tried to give her work-worn mother a helping hand. Ma was thoughtful for a moment, before saying slowly, "No, I don't, though it would have been nice if they'd all been in the family business. But William is a bit of a black sheep. He's better ploughing his own furrow." She laughed at her own little joke. "Literally sometimes, when he's called in to help out on the farm. I have to admit he's clever with machinery. If aught goes wrong with the threshing gear at harvest, it's William they call for, and he looks after Dr. Maitland's new car now." For many years, ever since he'd moved into the hall on his marriage to Henrietta Schofield, Edwin Maitland had been the local doctor, holding surgeries in a side room at the hall. Previously, when a home visit to a patient was necessary, he'd travelled around the villages in a pony and trap, but recently he'd acquired a motor car, and now he drove in comparative comfort on his rounds. Ma nodded down the lane where Pips and the roaring motorcycle had disappeared round the corner. "And I expect William will be looking after Master Robert's new-fangled machine and all. I wonder if he's brought that to use when he becomes a partner in his father's practice." With a keen interest, the villagers had watched the children at the hall grow and develop. They were devoted to the Maitland family. Henrietta was a firm but fair mistress of the house.